Hi, folks. Uncle Griff's Golden Age Comics here, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Chesler Comics and, more importantly, the Chesler family. Now, you may know Chesler Comics. They're a very famous Golden Age publisher, famous for books like Dynamic Comics, Scoop Comics, Punch Comics, Major Victory, Spotlight Comics, Red Seal Comics. I mean, just some of the most iconic books in the Golden Age. And you may even know some famous artists that worked for Chesler. Uh, Joe Kubert, who started there when he was 12 years old. Carmen Infantino worked for Chesler in the early 40s when he was still in high school. Jack Cole, creator of Plastic Man. Mort Merkin, Charles Bureau, Jack and Otto Binder, George Tuska, Macro Boy from Captain Marvel fame. Just a long list of artists that started with Chesler. And besides all the famous works that they did with Dynamic and Scoop and Punch and the other books, they did another series of comics that doesn't get a whole lot of attention. And that's these books here. These books, I like to call them Homefront comics. Homefront comics. And the reason I like to call them Homefront comics is because inside every issue, there's a little letter and a little note here that says, when you have finished reading this publication, we suggest that you send it to your brother, son, husband, or sweetheart in the armed service. He will enjoy the fun and laughter just as you did. Your man in uniform deserves the best, and he will appreciate your consideration. They were targeting the women that were staying behind and trying to get them to buy these books and send them overseas. Now, if you remember an episode I did previously on war bonds and war stamp covers, you'll know that comics were the most common paper item, magazine, etc., that were sent overseas. Comic books were sent more than any other article of paper. I think that's pretty fascinating in its own right. Now, the books were published by W.M. Wise, and they're really a subsidiary of Chesler. Chesler actually had 50 subsidiaries at one time. Chesler Sr. claims that he had produced over 5,000 different titles. I can't disagree with them because I can't prove it one way or the other, and I'm certainly not going to count. But one of the great things about these books is you can get all the World War II propaganda stuff that everybody loves, the anti-Hitler stuff or the Yellow Man stuff, without having to break the bank like you would on a standard size comic. Because these are digest size, they're a lot cheaper. I'm trying to find one for you. Didn't have it quite ready. There you go. So you can see on this one, there's an anti-Yellow Man there, and I'll put a picture there to make it a little easier to see. There's also anti-Hitler stuff there, and it's basically great stuff, great material for World War II at a fraction of the cost. These 4 books I picked up for $50. $50 for 4 Golden Age comics? Sign me up. They're kind of a mix between Bazooka Joe and Archie, best way to put it. Some of the stuff that I love about these books, though, is how the family put themselves in it repeatedly. Over and over and over again, you'll find those same names of the 2 sons, Jay and Bill. For instance, Rigging Bill. I think that's pretty great. And there's a little side note here. Jay's evil sergeant in the books is named Crowley, and it always makes me wonder if it's Crowley from Fawcett Comics fame. I also wanted to talk to you about the Chesler family. Now, this I did a little homework on, and to tell you a bit, it's going to probably take longer than talking about the comics, but I think it's worth it. I hope you'll enjoy learning about them as much as I did. So the father, Harry Chesler Sr., ran the comics company. He was a World War I veteran. Harry Chesler Jr., who they called Jay, he was working with the comics company and still did after the war. And then the other brother, he's kind of the black sheep, Arthur Bernard Chesler, who they called Bill. Over and over, you'll find those names in those books, by the way, which is hilarious. Now, Jay was stationed in the Army in World War II. at Brooklyn Naval Shipyard. He spent his entire entire Army career at a Navy yard in Brooklyn, a stone's throw from his house. I'm not sure how often that happened in World War II, but I can tell you when I was in the service, you didn't get stationed where you live. It just didn't happen. I sometimes wonder if Dad might have pulled a couple strings to get him stationed in Brooklyn. Arthur served in the Navy. He was given a medical discharge after 1 year, but he went on and rejoined the Merchant Marine, and he served there as a third mate on SS Panamanian. They were a cargo transport out of New York, and they traveled all over the world. He went to Murmansk. He went through the Caribbean, through Trinidad and Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. He had voyages to South Africa, and ended up spending time in Liverpool for a little bit. And then at the end of the war, they went back through the Panama Canal, and he finished the war in the occupation forces, is I guess the best way to word it, the people that stayed in Japan after the war. And he was there with them for a little while. Now things started to get a little bit weird. I was trying to find a little bit more out about all three of them, and I couldn't find out anything more about Senior. Well, a little bit more, and I'll get to that at the end. Jay just went back to work as a publisher after the war. Arthur, he's a bit of a ne'er-do-well. He was known for two things. One, he was a deadly handsome dude. He was the Brad Pitt of his time. And two, for being just a smidge bit of a womanizer. And he was the black sheep of the family for good reason. So, after returning to the States, he disappeared for a bit and became notorious for one thing: becoming a jewel thief. And not necessarily a good one. So on February 16th, he walked into Schlumberger's jewelry store in New York. It's a fashionable jewelry store, and identified himself as Mr. Bill Griffin, and proceeded to ask to see a diamond ring. The lady behind the counter showed him the ring, and he eyeballed it and said, this is a great ring, but I don't like the stone. At which point she went to the back room, grabbed a bag of stones to bring out to show him what stone she could set into the ring. And he proceeded to point a gun at her and rob her and the store of $40,000 worth of jewels and the diamond ring. Now, got away scot-free with that one. Then a month goes by. His funds are running a little low. And he goes, hey, you know what nobody ever does? Nobody ever robs the same store twice. So, on March 13th, he walked back into the store. Same store, this time guns blazing, guns pulled, and proceeds to rob them of $140,000 worth of jewels and gems. Okay, that's pretty ballsy. That's really ballsy. But you know what would be more ballsy than that? Yep. A month later, he went back to the same store to rob it for a third time. As he tried to get into the store, what he didn't know was the store had hired the Pinkerton Detective Agency, and they had a Pinkerton officer there. The Pinkerton was blocking all people coming in and out of the store, and when he realized what was going on, Bill tried to run. Dropped his hat, a custom fedora. Sure enough, they called the police. The police looked at the fedora, realized it was a locally manufactured hat, went to the hat manufacturer and said, do you know who bought this? And they basically showed the manufacturer pictures from their police lineups, and there was Bill's photo in it. They found out that he lived at the Plaza Hotel. So off to the Plaza Hotel the police go. And when they get to the Plaza Hotel, they get to meet one of three of Bill's wives. He was married to three people. Hang on a second. I think I had their names written down. Yep, a Miss Margot Griffith, a Miss Thelma Lynn, and a Miss Rosamond Norelli from Brooklyn. And Miss Norelli was happy to meet with the police officers, was happy to talk about her husband and show off her brand new diamond ring, explained that they had just gotten married on May 28th, and that her husband wouldn't be home because he was going to be going out to meet with his brother Jay at Jay's office building in downtown New York. And so they asked her if they could describe the car, and he was in a $135 green convertible Oldsmobile. Think about that. $135 a week rented car in 1951. That's like renting a Lamborghini these days. But hey, he had the gym money. What do you go figure? So the police went over to where the building was that Jay worked in, and sure enough, when Bill pulled up, they arrested him on the spot. He was sentenced to 5 to 10 years in prison for that little shenanigan, and he ended up spending 6 years in Sing Sing. Now, he traveled to Mexico with his mob connections to fence the diamonds. That was the only delay that he had between the robberies. Otherwise, I'm convinced he would have tried to do it the next day. Wasn't the brightest star in the sky. He's also purported to be working with Meyer Lansky, though nobody was able to prove that. Now, I told you I'd mention just a little bit more about Harry Sr. since I talked so much about Bill. Harry Sr. decided that the comics business was dying and he was going to change businesses. He thought about opening up a theme park, and he ended up not doing it. But he bought a bunch of land in New Jersey surrounding a place called Horseshoe Lake. He never did open the theme park, but he did donate the land, and today it's a public park with a beautiful Veterans Memorial sitting on top of it. Anyway, that's a little bit about the Chesler family, a little bit about Chesler Comics, and I hope you enjoyed today's story. Anyway, Uncle Griff, signing off. Have a great one. Oops, before I forget, I almost forgot to show you my pickups since last time I did a video. This is Copper Canyon. The reason I picked up this Copper Canyon comics right there, Hedy Lamarr, I want to do a little bit of background story and tell the story of Hedy Lamarr. This is Wing Comics number 28. I always wanted a Wing Comics, and I love this Fawcett cover. It's just great intensity on it. But most importantly to me, it has a Grease Monkey Griffin sub-story in it. And I love those stories. And since my name is Griffin, that just fits me perfectly. He's kind of the ne'er-do-well comic relief of the series. A Don Winslow of the Navy number 56, one of the semi-horror covers. Just one of the books that I needed for the set. I'm still working on my Don Winslow of the Navy set. 73 issues. I have most of them now. The biggest comic I picked up, also from Don Winslow, the number one book on my want list was this one. Don Winslow of the Navy number 4. I just love this cover with the submarine here crashing in, the psychedelic covers, the Nazi diver, and Don Winslow in whites underwater fighting him. Because Navy? I don't know. Anyway, it's been on my want list for a long time. It was one of the last of the expensive Don Winslows that I needed to pick up, so I'm happy to have that. And last but not least, Aaron from Rad Comics and Art and Comics was nice enough to do a Singapore Sal photo or drawing for me rather, and I'm looking forward to hanging this one up on the wall. Anyway, guys, like, comment, subscribe. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Uncle Griff signing off.